The hidden truth under the floorboards. The moving truck hadn't even finished backing into my driveway when Eleanor Whitaker, the iron-fisted president of the Pinewood Meadows Homeowners Association, stormed across my lawn, her clipboard clutched like a weapon. "Your vehicle is obstructing the community thoroughfare and violating safety protocols," she barked, her voice sharp enough to cut through the crisp autumn air of suburban Virginia. I stood there, boxes stacked around me, my life in disarray after a messy divorce, thinking this was the last thing I needed while trying to escape her suffocating rules about mailbox heights and lawn ornament sizes. But when Eleanor's eyes darted to a specific corner of my living room floor, visible through the open front door, her composure cracked. Panic flickered across her face, replacing her usual smug authority. What was it about that one spot in my house that made her so nervous? And what secret was she hiding that could unravel her decades-long reign over our neighborhood? My name is Margaret Sullivan, and 6 months ago, I thought I had everything under control. Freshly divorced, I was ready to sell my cozy ranch-style home in Pinewood Meadows, a picturesque community nestled in the rolling hills outside Richmond, and start over somewhere free of HOA tyranny. I had a plan: sell the house, pocket the proceeds, and move to a quiet coastal town where nobody cared about the shade of my shutters. But Eleanor Whitaker, a 62-year-old widow with a penchant for power, had other ideas. As HOA president, she wielded her authority like a scepter, issuing fines and citations for the smallest infractions. Her rules were more convoluted than a tax code, and her attitude was twice as abrasive. It started small. My real estate agent, Tom Bradley, had warned me that Pinewood Meadows HOA was particular about property standards to maintain resale values. Particular was an understatement. The first citation arrived before I'd even hammered the for sale sign into my front yard. According to HOA Bylaw 14.3, my azaleas were an unapproved hue, coral was forbidden, and only white blooms were acceptable. The fine? $50, due within a week. I stared at the notice, wondering if I'd stumbled into a world where flower police were a real thing. 3 days later, another citation landed in my mailbox. This time, it was about a hazardous drainage issue. A brief rainstorm had left a shallow puddle near my driveway, as it did at every house in the neighborhood after a downpour. But Eleanor, with her hawk-like scrutiny, declared it a public safety threat. Another $50 fine. I began to sense a pattern, and it wasn't about community standards, it was about control. Tom tried to downplay it, saying HOAs often got nitpicky during sales to ensure properties met buyer expectations. But there was a hesitation in his voice, a hint that he'd seen Eleanor's tactics before. What caught my attention wasn't the fines themselves, but Eleanor's behavior during her so-called inspections. Every time she visited my property, she positioned herself deliberately, standing near my front door, but always angling her body to block the view of one specific corner of my living room floor. At first, I thought she was just being nosy, peering inside to criticize my decor. But then I noticed her eyes flicking to that same spot repeatedly, like she was guarding something. During one inspection, she arrived with her phone, filming my driveway as if documenting a crime scene. She made a theatrical show of recording the dangerous puddle, circling it like a prosecutor presenting evidence. But she carefully avoided pointing her camera toward the window where a slightly mismatched floorboard was visible in my living room. I watched her sidestep to keep that area out of frame, and a chill ran down my spine. Something was wrong. I started paying closer attention. Eleanor's visits became more frequent, each with a new, increasingly absurd violation. One day, she cited me for excessive leaf accumulation in my gutters, though fall had barely begun. Another time, she claimed my front door was painted a shade of navy that was 2 tones off from the approved palette. Every visit, she found an excuse to linger near my front window, her body tense, her gaze fixed on that same floorboard. Her obsession was unmistakable, and it was starting to unnerve me. The breaking point came during a showing with potential buyers, a young couple named Daniel and Emily Carter. They were smitten with the house's mid-century charm and proximity to the community park. As we toured the living room, discussing the hardwood floors and natural light, Eleanor appeared at my door, knocking with the force of a battering ram. She launched into a tirade about unauthorized guest parking, claiming Daniel and Emily's SUV needed to be registered with the HOA office. The Carters exchanged uneasy glances as Eleanor droned on about community regulations, her eyes constantly darting to that corner of the room. When Emily asked about local amenities, Eleanor unleashed a lecture on neighborhood standards that could have doubled as a military briefing. By the time she left, the Carters were practically sprinting to their car, their interest in the house extinguished. That night, I sat in my living room, staring at the floorboard that seemed to haunt Eleanor. It was different from the other's newer wood, a slightly darker stain, and positioned just off the regular pattern. I'd always assumed the previous owner had patched a leak or replaced a damaged board, but now I wondered if there was more to it. Why would Eleanor, a woman who controlled every detail of Pinewood Meadows, care so much about one piece of wood? And why go to such lengths to keep people away from it? I opened my laptop and started digging. The Pinewood Meadows HOA website was a maze of landscaping rules and architectural guidelines, but it offered no insight into the organization's history. I turned to county records, searching for anything about the neighborhood or its HOA. What I found made my heart race. From 1999 to 2003, my house served as the HOA's temporary office while their current headquarters were under construction. More disturbingly, meeting minutes from 2002 referenced a contingency fund of $50,000 that had vanished without explanation. The funds, collected for road repairs and community upgrades, were supposed to have been redistributed, but no records showed where the money went. The investigation had been quietly dropped after the HOA board claimed the funds were reallocated, with no proof to back it up. The pieces were starting to fit together. Eleanor had been HOA president during that period. My house had been the HOA office when the money disappeared. And now, she was obsessed with a specific spot on my floor. Was something hidden there, something tied to that missing fund? 3 days later, Tom called with good news. A couple from Alexandria, Lisa and Michael Evans, had seen my listing and wanted to visit. They were pre-approved, eager for a suburban retreat, and loved the idea of a home near Pinewood Meadows walking trails. The showing was a dream. Lisa adored the kitchen's retro tiles, and Michael raved about the sturdy build and fenced backyard. We spent an hour touring the property, discussing renovations and their plans for a home office. By the end, they were ready to make an offer. For the first time in months, I felt a glimmer of hope that I could escape Eleanor's grip. But the next day, Lisa called, her voice heavy with confusion. "Margaret, we love your house and we're ready to bid, but we just spoke with someone from your HOA, Eleanor Whitaker. She said our residency application was denied." I froze. Residency application? Tom had assured me that HOA approval was a formality for qualified buyers. Lisa continued. She claimed our lifestyle doesn't align with Pinewood Meadows' values and mentioned she already has a cash buyer offering above our price. My blood boiled. Eleanor was sabotaging my sale, but why? I called Tom immediately. His response confirmed my worst fears. "Margaret, I've been selling homes here for 20 years, and I've never seen anything like this. Eleanor has derailed 4 other sales in Pinewood Meadows over the past 3 years with similar excuses. She promises better buyers who never show up, and the houses languish until sellers accept lowball offers from her approved buyers." His frustration was palpable, and I realized I wasn't just fighting a petty bureaucrat, I was up against a calculated scheme. That evening, Lisa called back with a bombshell. She and Michael had researched Pinewood Meadows and found old forum posts from homeowners complaining about Eleanor's interference in sales. They also uncovered 2002 HOA minutes mentioning the missing $50,000 fund, which vanished when my house was the HOA office. "Margaret, something's off," Michael said over the speakerphone. "The timing of that fund's disappearance and Eleanor's obsession with your house site's too coincidental. We're not giving up on your place. We think she's hiding something big." Their determination gave me unexpected allies. We spent an hour comparing notes, piecing together a chilling picture. Eleanor had access to the contingency fund as HOA president. My house was the likely storage site for those funds. The money vanished, and now she was desperate to control who lived here. Most tellingly, her fixation on that floorboard suggested something was physically hidden there. Lisa proposed a plan. "What if we bait her? If she's hiding something in your house, let's make her think we're about to find it. I can post something online to spook her into acting." Michael offered to monitor responses and record any suspicious behavior. We crafted a subtle but pointed post for the Pinewood Meadows Community Forum. Hi, neighbors. My husband and I are buying Margaret's house on Cedar Lane. During our walkthrough, we found old HOA financial records suggesting this property stored community funds in the early 2000s. Anyone know more about this history? The post was innocent enough to avoid suspicion, but designed to rattle Eleanor if she was guilty. As I went to bed that night, staring at the mysterious floorboard, I felt a mix of dread and excitement. For months, I'd been on the defensive, enduring Eleanor's harassment. Now, I was striking back. What was she hiding under my floor, and how far would she go to protect it? Moving day arrived with a golden October sunrise, the kind that made Pinewood Meadows look like a postcard. I'd hired a professional moving company, determined to leave with answers. The crew worked efficiently, packing my furniture and loading boxes. I was directing them in the living room when I saw Eleanor marching toward my house, her clipboard in hand, her face a mask of righteous fury. My stomach sank, but I noticed something different in her strideless confidence, more urgency. She pounded on my door, interrupting the movers. "Margaret, we need to discuss your flagrant violations of HOA moving regulations," she snapped, her voice laced with a nervous edge. She launched into a rant about my boxes being a public nuisance and the truck endangering pedestrian pathways. As she waved her phone, filming the supposed infractions, her eyes kept darting to the living room, where the movers were shifting furniture near that floorboard. When one of them started rolling up the area rug, her expression shifted to raw fear. She stepped forward as if to stop him, then caught herself and resumed her lecture. Then it happened. Distracted by the movers, Eleanor stepped on the floorboard, and it let out a loud, hollow creak, unlike the solid thud of the surrounding wood. The room fell silent. Her face blanched, and for a moment, she froze, her clipboard trembling in her hands. Then she erupted, shouting about structural deficiencies and unsafe flooring, her voice shrill with panic. But I'd seen the terror in her eyes, and I knew I'd hit the jackpot. After Eleanor stormed off, still muttering about filing complaints, I waited until the movers left. The house was eerily quiet, and I approached the floorboard with a crowbar, flashlight, and screwdriver. The wood was newer, the nails shinier, and tiny gaps suggested it had been removed and replaced multiple times. With a deep breath, I pried it up. It lifted easily, revealing a hidden compartment in the foundation. Inside was a small, heavy safe with a combination lock, its metal surface scratched from years of use. My pulse raced. I tried a few combinations, birthdays, addresses, but nothing worked. Then I remembered the 2002 meeting minutes and the missing fund. On a hunch, I entered 0202. The lock clicked, and the door swung open. Inside were 25 silver ingots, each engraved with Pinewood Meadows HOA Contingency Fund, 2002. At today's prices, each was worth about $2,000, totaling $50,000, the exact amount of the missing fund. I photographed everything, capturing the engravings and the safe's contents from every angle. Eleanor hadn't just stolen community money. She'd converted it to silver and hidden it in my house, checking on it for over 2 decades. The realization hit me like a freight train. Her control over sales, her fake buyers, her obsession with this floor, it was all to protect her secret. I was holding the key to her downfall, but I needed more than evidence. Eleanor was cunning, with deep roots in the community. A simple police call might not be enough. I needed to catch her admitting her guilt. I called Lisa, my voice shaking. "You won't believe what I found." I sent her the photos, and within an hour, she and Michael were at my door, staring at the silver in disbelief. Michael, a cybersecurity consultant, saw the bigger picture. "This isn't just theft, Margaret. It's a long-term cover-up. She's been using her HOA role to keep this buried, which explains why she's so desperate to control this house." Lisa had an idea. "We need her to admit she knows about this silver on record. If we just turn it over, she'll deny everything. But if we trap her into revealing her knowledge, we've got her." We devised Operation Silver Snare. Lisa would post another forum message to panic Eleanor. "Hi, neighbors. We found some intriguing items during our final walkthrough of Margaret's house, possibly tied to old HOA funds from the 2000s. Anyone know more before we close the sale?" Michael set up his laptop to record the living room, positioning it to look like it was charging while capturing the open safe. Less than an hour after the post, Eleanor's black SUV screeched into my driveway. She hurried to my door, her usual poise replaced by frantic energy. "Margaret, I heard you're confused about some old HOA items," she said, her voice tight. "I'm here to clear things up." Her eyes locked onto the safe as soon as she stepped inside, and her face cycled through shock, fear, and forced calm. I played along. "Lisa and Michael found some records about funds stored here years ago. Know anything about that?" Eleanor edged toward the safe, her voice strained. "That's just outdated HOA property from when this was our office. I was going to retrieve it for disposal per policy." Then she slipped. "The materials inside are just records from the contingency fund transition. Nothing significant. The fund was properly managed." Michael and I exchanged glances. She'd just admitted to knowing the safe's contents without being told. I pressed her. "Contingency fund? What was that?" Eleanor's response was her undoing. "A $50,000 reserve for community projects, securely relocated during the office move. Standard protocol." She was inventing excuses, but each word confirmed her guilt. Michael stepped forward. "Eleanor, you've been on live video for 15 minutes. 500 people are watching you explain a safe you shouldn't know about." Her face collapsed as the trap snapped shut. She lunged for the laptop, screaming about illegal recording, but Michael kept it out of reach. Her composure shattered, and she shrieked, "That silver is for the community. I was protecting it from mismanagement." Her words, broadcast to the neighborhood, were a confession. The live stream exploded. Neighbors flooded the chat with comments. "She's been fleecing us for years." Finally, proof. The viewer count soared past 1,000. Eleanor's empire was crumbling in real time. She tried to regain control, insisting it was a misunderstanding, but her trembling voice betrayed her. Neighbors began arriving, drawn by the live stream. Mrs. Henderson, an elderly widow, was first, followed by the Parkers and others, all buzzing with excitement. Police arrived within 20 minutes. Officer Daniels reviewed the video and examined the silver, his eyes widening. "These ingots are marked as HOA property, and you've admitted knowledge of their origin. You're under arrest." Eleanor was handcuffed, still protesting, as neighbors cheered. Her perp walk, captured on multiple phones, went viral. The investigation uncovered a web of corruption. Bank records showed $50,000 in cash deposits to Eleanor's accounts in 2002 and 2003, matching the fund's disappearance. She'd used some of the money to bribe neighbors for HOA votes, ensuring her re-election. She called it a community incentive, one resident admitted. $50 to vote for her. The media frenzy was relentless, with headlines like "HOA tyrant hides stolen silver" dominating local news. The hashtag HOA Kingpin trended nationwide. At the emergency HOA meeting, Eleanor was unanimously ousted, and new leadership promised transparency. 3 months later, her trial was a spectacle. The prosecution presented the live stream, bank records, and neighbor testimonies about her petty fines and vote buying. Eleanor's defense that the silver was a legitimate reserve crumbled under scrutiny. She was convicted of grand theft, fraud, and conspiracy, sentenced to 6 years in prison, and ordered to pay $80,000 in restitution. 6 months after her conviction, I returned to Pinewood Meadows for Lisa and Michael's housewarming. The house, once a battleground, was now a warm home, filled with laughter and pink azaleas. The new HOA, led by a reformed board, had open financial records and community-led projects. The silver was sold, funding a new playground and community center. A plaque in the living room marked the floorboard. Here, truth defeated tyranny. The party was a celebration of healing. Neighbors, once silenced by fear, shared stories and rebuilt trust. Mrs. Henderson thanked me, tears in her eyes. "You gave us our community back." I'd found a new purpose, consulting with other neighborhoods to prevent HOA corruption. As I drove away, the new HOA sign read, "Pinewood Meadows, a community of trust." The stains of Eleanor's regime lingered, but hope shone brighter. What do you think about standing up to bullies like Eleanor? Have you faced injustice or corruption in your community? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's debate how we can fight back against those who abuse power. Your voice matters.